All right, this is a review for your test on Monday. You have a review worksheet that goes along with this, but I'm going to walk you through some of the main ideas for Chapter 13. So the vocab that you need to be aware of is listed here. You can find this review in the content library of OneNote under the Chapter 13 notes. So here's your vocabulary. Molarity is moles of solute over liters of solution. All right. Molality is moles of solute over kilograms of solvent. Okay. Percent by mass is going to be the mass of the solute over the mass of the solution. So the part divided by the whole times 100. Percent by volume is the volume of the solute over the total volume of the solution times 100. All right, so those are your units that we should be familiar with. The rest is just vocab. We'll get into the calculation of these guys here in a little bit. The rest are just vocab. Saturated means it's holding as much as it can, so the maximum amount. Unsaturated is less than the max. All right, which means if it's unsaturated, you can add more of the solute. Supersaturated is holding more than max at a given temperature. All right, so that means that you've heated a solution up, you've added a lot of solute at that higher temperature, and then when allowed to cool, it's holding on to that excess solute, so we say it's supersaturated. Miscible means that two liquids mix. Immiscible means that two liquids do not mix. Okay. For the mixing, that's like alcohol and water mix easily, whereas oil and water do not. All right, types of solutions. You should just be familiar with the different types. Like air is a gas and gas solution. Let's see, if you have a salt dissolved in water, so salt water is a solid in liquid solution or mixture. You can have liquid in liquid, so like we talked about alcohol and water is a liquid in liquid. Okay, so there's a bunch of different ones. Solid and solid. If it's metals, we call them alloys. You can look that up in the notes. It's also in the book, but be familiar with those. Factors that affect rate of dissolution. The factors that affect those rates are going to be temperature. So as temp increases, things dissolve faster because of more collisions. Agitation like stirring or shaking also increases the rate of dissolution. And also particle size. As the particle size becomes smaller, in other words, more surface area. So we'll say more surface area. Okay, that also increases the rate of dissolution. So as particle size decreases, agitation is stirring, shaking, things like that. Temperature is increasing the temperature, hot versus cold. So you need to be familiar with those guys. All right, so let's talk about the calculations in your worksheet. You have a couple samples. In the worksheet, I give you the answers. So just make sure to calculate through some of those to make sure you know what you're doing. They're just samples. They're not meant to be exhaustive. They're just examples of some of the stuff that you'll see on your test. So one thing you'll have to do is calculate the number of moles in a given concentration. So we'll go here and say molarity. If you're given a given molarity, so molarity is equal to moles over the volume of solution. So if I need to calculate the number of moles, I'll be given the volume and be given the molarity. All right. Just make sure that the volume has to be in liters. Okay, so if the volume's given in milliliters, you have to convert. Obviously, you're just going to multiply through like algebra. So you'll multiply both sides by V, and that will give you the number of moles. If it's molality, well, that's moles over kilograms of solvent. Okay, molality will be given. Kilograms will be given, but might be given in grams. So that might be grams. You'll have to convert. Remember that 1 liter of H2O is equal to 1 kilogram, and 1 milliliter of H2O is equal to 1 gram. And that way you can convert if you're given volume. So that's how you would find the moles if you're given kilograms and molality, or volume, liters, and molarity. Another type of calculation you'll have to do is just solving for molarity and molality. Well, in that case, you're trying to find molarity, you would be given moles and volume. So both of these would be given. Again, remember that the volume has to be in liters. Moles might be given in grams, and then you have to convert grams and using the molar mass is 1 mole to find moles, and then that moles would be plugged in here. All right, so that's kind of a different type of problem that you might come up against there. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, if it's molality, which is moles over kilogram, again, these two values here would be given. And just keep track of units. Okay, make sure that you're keeping track of moles and that your denominator there is in kilogram. Percent mass should be pretty straightforward. Percent mass is just the mass of the solute over the total mass. All right, and so the total mass times 100. All right, percent volume is just going to be the volume of the solute. And so just like with percent mass, it's going to be over the total volume times 100. All right, and so you'll be able to calculate those. Those shouldn't be too difficult. There's a couple examples in the worksheet, so make sure you look at those. For colligative properties, we're looking at calculating delta T is equal to the constant times the molality. The constant could be, this guy could be K sub B or K sub F. And so if you're looking at calculating these, remember that it could ask you for what is the change in temperature. Well, if that's the case, if you're calculating just the change in temperature, all you want to do is calculate for delta T. So the change in temperature is delta T. But if it asks for what the boiling point or freezing point, what those things are, then you have to take whatever the boiling point plus delta T, or the freezing point minus delta T. Okay, so you would solve for delta T and add it to the boiling point for boiling point elevation, or subtract it from the freezing point to find what the new freezing point is. So those are the basic calculations that you guys are going to be undertaking. KB and K sub F will be given, obviously. You don't have to memorize those. So most of those are pretty straightforward. So give it a try on the worksheet. I'll be holding office hours tomorrow at 10 a.m. So feel free to jump on and ask any questions, any clarifying questions. If you can't meet at that time and you still want to be able to ask some questions, you can throw them in the questions and answers channel on Teams or send me an email, and we can set up a time to meet outside of office hours, and I can help you out with anything that you might need. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you guys next time.